Hey everybody, we are back, and today we are going to look at how to do just that, put a character into some footage. And so there's two topics that we need to talk about. First off is the ideal type of footage, what to shoot for your video. And then secondly, how to track that video and apply the animation to that tracked video. So let's get going here. So just to talk about the footage itself, let's have a look and see some examples that I'm about to show you. So here is one, and the patio is the highlight. Now, we want to make sure that there's something that's always on the screen at all times in order for the software to track that one particular item. So in this case, in the patio, we are probably going to track this ashtray. So the corner of the ashtray has the shadow with the white ashtray itself. It's high contrast and it's going to work really well to track in After Effects. This is an example with this garbage can where it is not going to be good footage because nothing really stays on the screen at all times. So if I wanted to track the stop sign, this would be a good one. But as you see here, it's now gone. Same with the garbage can, same with the railings, same as the bridge. This is going to be very difficult to track. It's doable, but it's going to be very, very time consuming. Here's another one with flowers and a zoom. Now this kind of works, and I'll show you how I would handle this. There's the zoom that takes place. And in this particular instance, I thought that the logo in the vase was the best one to track. So now let's have a look at the program. And in After Effects, we are going to use this couch as the example. Now this is something you already saw. It looks okay. I'm going to go ahead and get to the start of it. So I'm going to put the video into a composition. So I just did that. Now I'm going to go under tracker and I'm going to track motion. Now when you get a track motion, this track point appears, and I'm going to track the inside, and the outside box is what After Effects will look for in terms of the amount of pixels around as the camera moves. So if there's a huge action scene, then most likely it'll get lost because of the bounding box that is a little small. But when you make it too big, it takes a long time for After Effects to computate. So in this instance, we're looking for a high contrast area, which After Effects can pick up. I probably don't want to grab anything on the sides because it's just the camera does move, and so I'm going to look at the center, and so I'm going to grab the box and grab this corner here, and that's going to be my tracking. I'm going to hit play, and it will track. And as you can see in this example, it is staying with that corner of the table, and it's going pretty quickly. And so that looks pretty good. I will be right back once it's all done. Okay, so we're back and it's all done. Now we can look at the track points, and it's good to scrub and make sure that everything looks okay. Because if it isn't, then we have to manually go in and move the track point. But I think it looks pretty good. Excellent. So now from here, we're in the layer. We need to give it something to track. So we want to put these keyframes onto something. I'm going to right click over the timeline and create a new null. So null object is just an invisible object. We can put data onto it, and then from that data, we can then have the character input and place that onto the null. Sounds complicated, but just follow these steps and you'll be fine. I'm going to edit the target to let it know that we want the null 3, to have the attributes of the track point, and then we need to apply it. So the X and Y information will go into the null. So if you go to the null, you'll see that the position has all been keyed, and there is keyframes for every single frame of X and Y position from the track camera data, and now we can apply our character to it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Grab the character. The character is standing, and I'm going to put that right on top, and I will then parent it to the null 3. I'm going to go ahead and hit scale reduce the scale, and place the character on top of the couch. Like that. So because I parented it, it should stay with the couch. And for the most part, it does stay on the couch. There are a couple parts that could be fixed a little bit, but you'd have to go in, you double click on the couches, and you double click in there and really zoom in and make sure that corner is highlighted through the entire video footage. Okay, so if it's off a little bit, it's hard for me to see where it's off. Everything looks okay. Then you go ahead and do that. So get out of this layer, and now that the character's there, so in the intro video, there was a shadow on the video footage to make it more believable that the character actually is in the scene. So I'm going to quickly show you how to do that. I'm going to go and copy this, Control-C, Control-V, and I'm going to rotate this, and I'm going to place it underneath like this. So from here, I'm going to then apply some effects. First one I'm going to use is levels, and with levels I can make it black. So I'm grabbing the little triangle and I'm getting as close as I can to black. There we go. So I just drag it as far to the right as I could. Now it's black. Next one I'm going to use is to make it blurry. I will go to Gaussian blur and I will set this to about 50, maybe more. Then I will go to T for opacity and change this to maybe 30 or 40. Depends how much shadows are in your scene. Right now I'm looking at the pillow. The pillow's shadow, looks about the same, about 30. And then because of the shape of the couch itself, it should be distorted with the shadow. And I'm going to try to fix this by using scale. So I'm going to turn off the link and I will try to shrink it and make it a little bit less obvious. Oops. And I forgot to parent it to the null. So parent it to the null and it should stay in there too. Okay, so now let's look at an example that doesn't work so well. So here I am looking at my footage and I went ahead and I started tracking. And I tracked a high contrast area, this part of the ramp. And if you notice, it does a pretty good job in the beginning. But as I'm moving along, it just goes crazy. And it's no longer tracked to the fence. It goes crazy. Now I can still try to track it. And I could zoom in here. First off, I would probably increase the size, grab one of these corners, and increase the size. But I'd also move, and then I'd move it to manually track that black little box. And then I could play, and it should still track it now. So that's fine. So it's adding keyframes, which is wonderful. So I'm fixing it. But once it goes off the screen, this is where you have problems. So you then have to manually make the character disappear. And that's quite fine. So you can see how it created that. And it worked quite nicely. And I can go back to about here. And I can then go in reverse. And then it will try to track in reverse. So it's adding those keyframes, which is working quite well. And that's how you would fix a shot like this. So again, it does a pretty good job in that sense. But once you get away from that black, then you've got to, fix all these keyframes, move them all out of the way, probably delete them. And then when it comes back to about here, then you can start tracking again. So then I would grab this, and with the flower, I was able to find something that worked. Again, something that was close to the center of the video, and something that was high contrast that worked really well was in this reflective piece, which is white, along the vase, or the vase. And if you look through and I scrub through, it is, for the most part, staying in track with that label. So even as I zoom in, it goes in. Now the problem with zooming in, although it's very interesting and looks very good and compelling, is that the character does not also zoom along with the zoom or the walk in. So I'm now going to track the motion. I'm going to create the null again. And from here, I've selected the flower video footage. And if for some reason this edit target is gray, it's because the track type is not set to stabilize or transform. So transform is the one you want. And edit target already set to null 5, wonderful. And then I hit apply, X and Y, wonderful. And then now I can bring the character in. So there's the character. Character's going to stand on the side. I'm going to then parent it to the null. I'm going to hit S to reduce, and then I will click and drag to scale this thing down. And now the character is on the side somewhere. Now this is kind of tricky because as the camera goes in and zooms in, the character should get bigger. Now the character's behind, early on you see the character is more or less behind or next to the table. But as we go closer, it has to get in front of the table. So as I'm looking at this footage and it's standing there, it looks good. As I'm going in around here, I will then hit S on the keyboard, turn on the keyframe for scale, and as we get closer in to about here, we will want to increase the scale of the character as well. Okay. So notice as I am getting into, the position is also changed. So you'll also need P on the keyboard and hit U to see the keyframes. I want to keep them together, and so I'm going to put a position there. Now this character starts off about here, and maybe we want it in front of the table, and then as it zooms in, it's still there, and there's a bit of a play or an illusion, okay, as we zoom in. So that's another neat little trick by adding keyframes on the composition of the character. We can apply and make sense of the character in this way. So then we can apply also the reflection. So the reflection would be the same thing as a shadow, but we're not using levels. So I'm going to rotate, bring this in, and this one is some ways easier. T for opacity, make it transparent. Have to eyeball this till it looks pretty good. And then we want to make sure we parent it to the null. No, I think I parented to something else. Let's just double check. Parent it to the null. And so there it is there. It stays for the most part until we get to about there. It starts to move. So let's double check and turn off the position in the scale. And let's just go ahead and reposition it because it was affected there. There we go. And now it should be fine. So now we turn on the position of the scale here, and then it kind of goes off frame, so we don't need it anymore. There it is, and then I start tracking. So now it's going to pick it up, but it's just got lost there again. And there it is. Anyways, it goes a little crazy because of this bigger box. The box is kind of big, and it tries to find another high contrast area, and it's giving us problems. If we look at the character, I do want to highlight, if you happen to make the mistake of putting the piece of footage in the same composition of your character. Now, if this were to happen, this is a quick fix, which is why I'm showing you. If you select all of the layers of your character, you hit Control-Shift-C, this allows you to create a composition of the highlighted items. So then you'd call it a character. In this case, I'll call it character 2. And now you have the character in a separate composition in its own compressed, layer. And now you can then put your null in, and then you can attach the composition, which now has the character in it, to the null, and you're fine. All right, so there you have it. You have shadows and you have reflection, and most importantly, you're able to know how to track the footage, know what kind of footage to use that works best in After Effects for the tracking system. And that's that. So have fun and enjoy.